Hey look, that's a new Delta table saw, but that's not what brought you here now, is it? No, this is what brought you here. This huge Outfeed table. Workbench, fab space, fab table, whatever you want to call it. This is the attraction. Mass. This thing is 5 feet wide, 7 feet long, and it weighs about 700 pounds. It doesn't go anywhere when you really push on it. It's a beast. Stick around, let me show you what's up. I'm coming to you from South Florida, and if you like to design, build, be creative, wing it, watch people work on YouTube, you come to the right spot. Jack Pine's going to show you a few things. Let's do this. Here we go. Delta table saw, floor model from Lowe's. Brought it home, missing all sorts of stuff. Took me about 3 trips to get it all assembled, but that I did, and from here starts the journey. Okay, so this board is the official beginning of the table. That's where the table actually connects to the saw, and it's a firm attachment. As you can see, that board is bolted in 4 locations to the back of the saw, and then that 2x6 is screwed to the back of the board, and here we go. So here's the beginning stage. I'm just milling all this this store-bought lumber down, making it all square and getting it all ready to be the structure for this table. What I've got here is this this jig, and you're going to see that 2x6 touch it right now, and so that's setting the height for the top of my structure. So I'm going to take this 4x4, which is going to be one of the legs to the Outfeed table, and I'm going to find my elevation with it, scribe a line, and then start cutting out my rabbet. So this piece of wood I keep using, it's just finding the final elevation to the top of the countertop, so the top of the table saw and the Outfeed table mesh at the final second. And so I'm just checking elevation here again. I do this throughout this video a lot. So yep, moving along. Alright, so here's kind of the bones of the deal. This is the general shape of the outfeed table. It's held together with clamps and levels as braces and crazy stuff. But I can kind of see where it's all going to be now, and should be pretty good.
Far. I enjoyed it because there's no waitresses, right? Not that I don't like waitresses. And I remember I was driving home, and it started.
Alright, I gotta wrap it up. If I don't, my neighbor's gonna have me visited by the SWAT team. The last thing they want to do when they drink their margaritas is hear me run my saws. Got some final fitting stuff getting ready to take place. There's gonna be a board that runs on the side of this table saw that's gonna match up with this at some point. And then this is gonna be a router table. I don't know why this thing is not focusing. I don't really get it. I mean, what in the world would it be trying to focus on? Look at that cut. I don't know if you can see it, but this board is twisted so badly that I had to cut it on the bandsaw at an inward plane. Same with that one. And then of course all this is going to get knocked apart, and I'll chamfer and router it. Back to work. This is the bottom of the leg to the table. And if you ever move the table around, the sharp edges will catch and splinter up the wood. What I like to do, router those edges. .80 grit. Looking real pretty. Okay, so here I laminated up a 4x4, and it's going to mount to the end of the outfeed table, and it's going to be a firm attachment point for clamps and stuff. There'll be an overhang at that portion of the outfeed table. So when the joint looks like this, you know that means I was pretty busy today.
But I mean, I got mad respect.
So this afternoon I was setting up this shot, and I wanted to get a bottle of water before I started the filming. And so I was climbing around that tripod on that stairway landing, and I tripped on the tripod, and it went flying towards the outfeed table. So I did a 180 flying for the tripod to try to catch the camera because it had a $700 lens on the end of it, and I didn't catch it. I did a header. The camera slammed into the ground, busted the lens. It's a $700 wide angle lens that's been with me for a few years now. We've traveled all over the place and had a good run together. But anyways, no longer. I wish I just like to say I have a whole new respect for this filming yourself while working. It changes the whole game up, and it's been an interesting journey so far, and an expensive one today. So that's it. Today's been costly. This gone. This tool had a lot of use out of it. Now the clutch went out. Gone. Stuff happened today. And on to the next episode. So anytime you're applying wood glue to end grain, you should always let it skin up and then come back and apply some more and then put it in its final resting place. You'll get much more adhesion that way. Alright, so you're looking at all the surfaces that beam's going to contact here in a minute. They're all lathered up with wood glue, and it's about ready to find its final resting place here in a couple seconds. Hey, I had to take a break from the old building project and hang these lights up. It was too dark in here. I couldn't even see the hash marks on my tape measure. But that's been solved because it is super bright and it's really, really nice. So it's gonna be a welcome change. I done wired them in. That's America flag right there. Now they're on our switch. Flip this switch right here, and all of a sudden, bam! I can do wood surgery. That really makes a difference, and it's over the entire work area, as you can see. But if you couldn't see, I'm really happy that I told you that. Okay, so we're looking at a lot of done framing here. The bottom supports are in. The entire bench is shaped and routed and sanded, completely bolted up. That big beam in front there is glued and screwed and tattooed. It's all it's really, really sturdy. So next step is going to be that lower shelf. That's going to take 3/8 plywood and move on from there. The old redneck track saw works every time. Aw shoot, Amazon delivered my drill replacement. Should I do like an unboxing where you can see me literally pulling this out of the box and going, man, I really love this drill, but when it's obvious I've never even put a battery in it. It's already at 100. so check this out. So I needed to connect the fence to the outfeed table, and I had some flat bar laying around, so I bent it up and countersunk a couple of holes in it, and this was my plan. So check it out. This focus is a problem. I don't understand. One thing's going to change here, and that's going to be the camera that I use. One thing's going to change here, and that's going to be the camera that I use. Since the carnage of my last lens and just the onslaught of dust, this schismatic focus thing that we got going on, irritating. So I'm going to be switching to this camera, and this camera right here is a Panasonic SD60 Full HD 920 1080. This camera right here hiked the PCT with me twice, 2011 and 2013. Sucker. It's a good camera, and it's tough, and it doesn't have breakable lenses. And honestly, I've got my full use out of the camera, so if I were to break it, see ya. It's all right. And then I'll be switching to my cell phone. But hopefully that doesn't happen, and we can have a long and wonderful career together, filming YouTube videos. Every big day should always end up with a clean shop. It's kind of my mantra. This is the first time I've ever had a wood shop with carpet, so it really dictates how clean the place is going to be. So I'm literally running a house vacuum over this place every night. I know it's starting to look pretty overbuilt, but one of the reasons it's overbuilt is because this table is going to come apart one day. Going to have to go through that door. I want it to be sturdy because the top is going to come off and the legs are going to go away. This is the mounting spot for a wood vise, and there's the vise right there. The grade school pencil sharpener. Look at that point. That sucker is surgical. I've had that pencil sharpener for 20 years. I got it at an auction. I bought a whole pallet full of stuff, and that beauty came out of it. There it is. All I gotta do is stain it and then reattach it. Okay, so I have this roll of plastic. I just cut these squares out with a lever. I picked up the bench. I'm going to unroll the plastic. Basically, I'm going to plasticize this whole floor so I can begin the staining process of this outfeed table. That's what's up. Drape everything with plastic and tarps and towels. See you on the other side.
They seem to have very poor eyesight.
About 3/4 of a gallon on this structure, but it looks pretty good. Okay, so at the beginning of this video, I built this board which attaches the outfeed table to the chassis of the saw itself. And it's held on by 4 bolts. And 2 are easily accessible from the bottom of the table. And then 2 of them are going to be very close to the top of the table. So I have to create some sort of access point to get to those bolts, because at some point in time I'm going to have to detach the saw from the table in order to realign the trunnion or move the saw, or who knows. But I do have to create an access point, so that's what I'm going to do in this section. Check it out. That bolt needs some easy access. Because pretty soon there's going to be a cover over it. So what I need to do, run this hole saw through this board and this board. Alright, there we are. Now I can get a tool underneath, take off that bolt down the road. This is a woodworker's vise. There's actually going to be 2 of these. I'm going to show you this piece right here in a second. Alright, so there is the fascia, the outside surface of the workbench. And if you look right there, there's a little gapiosis going on there. Stage 4 gapiosis. I've got a couple of stainless steel washers that I will ultimately put in here like shim. And then I will through bolt that one, and then I'll lag that one. Okay, so here's the skinny when it comes to the final elevation of the outfeed table versus the elevation of the table saw. The middle of the outfeed table was perfect. The left-hand side was about 3 millimeters short, and the right-hand side was about 2 millimeters high. So as you can see, I made these slats on the left-hand side, and that raised my elevation enough to be perfect. And then on the right hand side, I just used my power planer and some 40 grit sandpaper on a sander and kind of milled that down. And when it's all said and done, it's perfect. So super, super lucky. I was really nervous about that. We are moving forward here. 2 layers of plywood, permanently attached. A lot of screws in that, I'll tell you what, a lot of 3-inch stainless screws. Melamine is next. That's it right there. I cut my hand earlier today messing with the stuff, so I gotta get my gloves on to even look at it. It's got a sharp edge to it. Alright, so the first and largest piece of melamine is permanently down. The edge closest to the table saw, I ended up attaching a piece of poplar to it, and just for durability reasons mainly, I routed in a 1/4 round profile to it, and it's glued and brad nailed on there. You know, melamine is nothing but glorified particle board, which doesn't fare very well in the southern Florida humidity, so I went ahead and put it on there. I think it'll look good once I stain it, and it'll be a nice contrast. So moving forward, here we go. Alright, here you can see me utilizing my redneck track saw, which I'm a big fan of. I've been cutting with a straight edge and an offset block for a long time, and it rarely fails me. So here's the second piece of melamine being cut right now. Shortly it'll be down, and this will be a wrap. Okay, so what I'm basically doing here is I'm creating a glue seam in between the 2 pieces of melamine that are about ready to become one. And I put some packing tape down there just to ensure that the glue won't seep into the plywood layer below the melamine, because I don't want those 2 to be permanently connected. You know, the melamine is ultimately a sacrificial layer, so I want to be able to pull the screws out of it and take it off and replace it with another newer top if I need to, or something like that. I don't want to deal with glue. So and then the main reason I'm gluing it is just because I might spill something on the top one day, and I'd be afraid if it were to seep in that joint, it would blow out the particle board, and also the humidity once again. So just trying to think ahead, and the glue idea was my best option. Making this edge trim for this bench now. The 2 bottom layers of plywood come out a little bit further than the top layer of melamine. So I created this rabbet. It fits fairly tightly. There's still a little gapiosis, but when I push on it and when I screw it down, it should get tight enough. That's a jizz line of glue there. Here we go. I get another step closer. That's just putty in there. I'm going to sand all that down and make it right. This is all glued in here. There'll be another board right here on the edge of this wing that will cover this whole space. Kind of tie it all together. I left that like that because the router table will get trimmed with the same affair. Getting this surface to match with that surface was not easy. I'm a little critical that I've got 1,000 holes in it. Countersunk stainless steel 1 5/8" screws. This is where I'm at right now. This is this extruded, really solid aluminum track these type of clamps fit into. See that screw? Well, you back that screw out a little bit and it slips into here, and then you can clamp down on work. I need to router out a spot for that so I can get it nice and perfectly flush. I built a jig here on top of my table. here we go. So I'm going to show you how I made these wood pads for the rear and front jaw of the woodworking vise. Okay, so this is the wood I'm going to use. This is poplar. So I'm going to rip it in half, cut it down to size so it fits those jaws. Here we go. Alright, I got all 4 pieces made. Kind of sanding them down and knocking the edges off. I countersunk the holes. The screw goes in there nice and hidden. Alright, I made another jig here. Router is going to slide up within it, and it's going to help me put in the miter grooves on the outfeed table. They'll be 18 inches long or so. As always, there's things you want to change, and so I put together a little list, and here they are. Number 1, I wish I would have trimmed this out in oak instead of pine. I think oak would last a lot longer and certainly would wear better. The vises. This surface should be flush with this surface, and this surface should be level with this surface. I wish I would have laid them out a little bit better, but I didn't, so next time around I will. The seams. So anywhere where there's a seam between like the edge and the melamine, I should have used a product by 3M called 5200. It's more of a maritime sealant, and it works unbelievably well. And then of course the feet of the table. I should have fashioned a leveling system that independently leveled the table to the saw's surface. That way I didn't have to spend all that time trying to perfectly marry the two surfaces together. That took just, that was a lot of time. Fifth and final thing would be the top. If I could do it all over again, it would be a hardwood laminated butcher block style top. That would be a forever piece, and the melamine, unfortunately, is sacrificial at best. So, but it is beautiful. And just like that, it's done. I'd like to thank my sponsors. Me. Also, sorry about that voiceover quality. That talking into my computer is like talking into 1996 or something. The microphone's the size of a pencil lead, but I ordered a new microphone, should be here in the next week or so. So I'll be using that on my next build, which is going to be a router table, so stay tuned. So like it, subscribe to it, tell your friends about it, yell at me for not wearing safety glasses, I don't care. Just interact with me and tell me what you thought, alright? I'm looking for it, give it to me, let's bring it on. That right there is a good outfeed table for a Delta table saw. Don't you let anybody tell you different, son. Nobody tells you different. Over and out. Jack Pine. Have a good night. See you later.